Right now, I want to give you the content that you came here for, which is the top 5 yoga poses that every single runner should be doing. First one is downward facing dog. That's going to help stretch out the back of your legs. It's going to build upper arm strength, and lower arm strength too, and core strength as well. So I'll show you how to get into that. So I'm going to start with my hands shoulder width apart. My feet are hip width apart, pulling my chest towards my thighs. And what I'm doing here is rotating my biceps out, really pulling in my low belly, which again is engaging my core, and then sinking my heels down towards the mat. So I'm stretching out the entire back side of my legs, including my calves, my ankles, which is really great for runners. So if you're not doing this already, definitely start. If you don't have the upper body strength to quite do a full downward facing dog, I mean, if you can hold it for a few seconds, then work from there, extend it out. Thank you so much for the hearts. If you need to work up to it, put a chair underneath your hands. So imagine I have a chair and I'm leaning like this. Just build up to it if you don't quite have the upper body strength to do that. So that's my number 1 pose. Number 2 pose is pyramid pose. And again, this one's really good for stretching the back of the legs too. So what I'm going to do is set up, my feet are just about a foot apart, maybe a foot and a half. If you need to shorten your stance, by that we mean bring your feet in together. Feel free to do that. So my back foot's at about a 45-degree angle. My front foot is straight in front of you, or in front of me. My hips are square in front of me. I'm going to reach tall, lengthening my spine. Then I'm going to fold forward with a flat back. If you're very inflexible, keep a chair in front of you to put your hands on, or take a block beneath your hands, and that will help give you support. If you're a little more open, you can bring your hands down to your mat or to the ground below you. But again, I'm opening the back of my leg. When you're doing this, think about pulling the back hip forward as you send the front hip back to keep the hips square. So that's pyramid pose. Pose number 2. Pose number 3 is reclining pigeon or pigeon pose, depending on where you're at. If you're super tight, I would recommend starting with reclining pigeon. It's a little bit easier to get into. So it's also called figure 4 pose. If you hop on over to my blog, I think if you just search reclining pigeon, it'll probably come up. I've blogged about it a couple times. This one, I'm going to lay on my back because reclining. I'm going to bring, we'll do this on both, or I do it on both sides. I'm going to show it on one side. I'm bringing my left ankle on top of my right thigh, or at the top, kind of just below the knee. I'm going to reach through the little space I've created and grab a hold of my shin as I flex both feet, and then pulling my right leg into my chest with my hands to help stretch the outer part of my seat muscle here that tends to get pretty tight when you're running. So I'd recommend starting with that. As you start to get more open, you can come into full pigeon pose. Sweeping the arm up, bringing it forward. As you get more and more flexible, if you practice a lot of yoga, you can bring your thigh or your shin so that it's parallel to the front edge of your mat. I'm not that open. So I have my front leg in front of me as parallel as I can get it. I'm going to square off my hips by looking over my right shoulder. My back leg is long behind me. I could stay here if this is enough stretch. You could come down to your forearms, or even put your forearms on a block or something, or you can melt forward. But again, only do that version if you're more open. If you're really tight, definitely just stay with the regular reclining pigeon. Pose number 4, bridge pose. So what bridge pose does is it helps open up the hip flexors, which tend to get really tight on runners. It's also going to help you engage your glutes, your quads, and even if you think about it a lot, you can engage your hamstrings too to strengthen. So lots of good things going on in bridge pose. I'm going to lay on my back, scoot my feet in so that my fingertips are touching my heels, and then I'm going to lift my seat up into bridge. So again, to build strength, I'm engaging my glutes here, which is helping to strengthen the stabilizer muscles in the hips. Very important for runners. And then I'm also engaging my quads, and I'm even pulling in on my hamstrings for strengthening. And the more I press up, the more I'm opening through my hip flexors. If you'd like a shoulder opener and your shoulders are open, you can clasp your hands below you
and shimmy your shoulders under. But again, only if you're open enough to do that. If that hurts, don't.
It's the most important thing in yoga. You should never feel pain. So that was pose number 4. Pose number 5, trying to remember what I decided to do. Legs up the wall. So the reason why I have legs up the wall as one of my poses is that it's really great for doing after hard runs, especially after long runs. You're going to keep your legs up in the air and let all of your old blood, waste products, things like that flow out of the legs so that you can bring in new blood with nutrients, oxygen, that sort of thing. And I wasn't able to read that comment. I'll be back by the phone in just a second. So, pretty easy. If you have a wall, put your legs up against the wall pretty much. The easiest way to do that, pretend that there's a wall behind me. I'm going to scoop my seat up against the wall and then just rotate, leaning my legs up there. But honestly, if you don't have a wall, just do it in the middle of the room. You just engage your legs a little bit more. But again, the idea is that the lymph, the blood is flowing out of your feet, out of your legs, back to your heart. And then when you come back up, fresh blood flows back into the legs, so you get everything kind of replenished, renewed, that sort of thing. So that is a awesome restorative yoga pose for runners that I would say honestly, like I do every time after